Right. So to like round out or continue catching up with this comic book renaissance of my channel, I'm going to talk about Christopher Cantwell's Iron Man because it's amazing. I friggin' love this book. I read the latest issue last night or a couple nights ago, and it nearly brought me to tears, honestly. By the way, it's always good. It's always good when you get to the end of a comic and it gives you the phone number for a suicide helpline. you know. But yeah, this book is basically the best action figure commercial in comic book form. What I mean by that is that there's so many new armors and new looks for Iron Man introduced in this run so far. It's only been 20 issues, so it's not like it's 100 issues and it's gone through so many different eras. It's 20 issues and or 19 issues, nearly 20 issues, and it's been through one story throughout, but several different arcs of that one story. So the entire 19 issue run has been dealing with Iron Man fighting Korvac, right? And Tony Stark is basically cancelled on Twitter, or cancelled on Marvel's version of Twitter. He kind of is becoming a recluse. He's swearing off modern technology. He's going back to basics with his suit. It's an actual suit that he has to put together back in the 80s, and it looks very similar to his suit back in the 80s, just with a modern update, and it's drawn beautifully. If you go back and watch the videos I did on the first few issues, you'll actually see what this suit looks like. By the way, the Iron Man covers so far by friggin' what's his name? Fucking Alex Ross. Alex Ross is doing the covers, and they are all spectacular. They're basically posters. They're basically posters that you can pop on your wall. But yeah, there's so much that happens in this book. Iron Man gets the power cosmic and becomes a god, and basically gives everyone on the planet his level of intelligence. And there's a cool scene with Reed Richards where he's like, I think I'm dumber now. So that's fun. And it's cool to see, because it's essentially that whole Tony Stark turning himself into a god with the power cosmic. It's kind of doing the Superior Iron Man thing again, but not all the way there, because in Superior Iron Man he's a full-on dick. Here he's actively trying to do the right thing, but his mind is kind of like a Black Mirror version of himself, and he finally figures out he finally lets go of all the power, and then doesn't actually have a fight with Korvac. A B plot in this book that kind of rears its head by issue 19, by the latest issue, is that Tony goes through this big fight with Korvac, and by the end of it has to go on painkillers, has to go on morphine, needs all this stuff, and he's got a morphine drip in his armor, so he can't take off the armor, and he's constantly got morphine, so he becomes addicted to morphine, much like Demon in a Bottle when he was addicted to alcohol. And the end of this, the whole tumultuation of this book is that Korvac sees how depressed and like how much of a like shell of a man that Tony Stark has become because of his dependence on morphine and his dependence on painkillers, and he reverts into a human form, and instead of killing Tony Stark, he sees Tony just like throwing up, hobbling on the floor, so he takes him to a hospital and then proceeds to jump off a building and kill himself, which doesn't really make sense when you look back on it, but the whole like it kind of is showing this kind of turnaround for Korvac, and he kind of realizes his own humanity, and then realizes that what he's done he can't go away from. So he probably sees that the only way to really make up for the wrongs that he's done is to remove himself from the universe, because he's done so much shit to the universe. Like, there's an issue where the God version of Iron Man and Korvac are having this battle in space, and they're throwing planets at each other, and that whole issue is from the point of view of someone on this planet, and then at the end of the issue they just see this hand grasp it, and it's not Korvac's hand, it's Iron Man's, and he just throws this planet at Korvac, and they're battling each other. Like, Tony would never get to a state where he'd actively kill himself, but Korvac does, and Korvac gets to that point. So yeah, it's a really, really emotional final issue, because we get those last few pages of Patsy Walker, Patricia, Patsy Walker, or Patsy Palmer, what's the fucking name? Patsy Walker, fucking Hellcat. You get Hellcat and Iron Man and Tony driving to this basically addicts clinic, and so throughout, I'm really getting off track. Throughout, like, the issues, Tony makes a team of like Z-list superheroes, like Scarlet Spider, Misty Knight, fucking Frogman, the Gargoyle. I don't even know if his name is Gargoyle. I think it's like Gargoyle Man or something. But yeah, the Gargoyle and Halcyon, and I don't know who else. I think that's it, and War Machine shows up, because obviously War Machine shows up in an Iron Man book. And by the end of the issue, by the end of the final issue, Tony's reading this note, and it says, I hope you get the help that you need. Your friend Eugene, Frogman. And that kind of brought a tear to my eye. I didn't expect a comic in 2022 featuring Frogman to bring a tear to my eye, and it did. So yeah, this Christopher Cantwell knows how to write Iron Man. And he gets the voice spot on. He gets the voice for other characters pretty much spot on as well, like Rhodey. This is a really good characterization of Rhodey. I haven't really talked much about what Rhodey does in the book, because it's not really that important. There's some other characters as well. Stiltman's in the book for a little while, and I feel like that story with Stiltman was actually pretty good as well, because it kind of tries to make Stiltman a big bad, but you leave that book with Stiltman still being a bit of a shit villain, or not really a shit villain, because what he manages to do is pretty impressive. But you still have Tony give him this entire character breakdown, and this entire breakdown of how he ends up, why Stiltman is such a lame, stupid villain. You kind of get this breakdown of Stiltman as a character delivered by Tony Stark, while Tony Stark is beating the crap out of Stiltman, which is really fun. And it's things like that. You would never see anyone else use a character like Frogman, use a character like Stiltman, use a character like fucking Red Rocket. I think it's Red Rocket, but there's really early Marvel character that's reintroduced in this, that called Red Rocket, and he's and he still talks like one of those early old school comics, and it works really well. And yeah, at the end of the day, this book is I don't think it initially was trying to be a deep dive and look into addiction and what addiction can look like on someone with a god complex, because I feel like the original Demon in a Bottle, which is definitely massive inspiration for this, and I feel like any of the best stories of Iron Man's, recent or otherwise, deal with his addictive personality and his either his addiction with power, his addiction with knowledge, or his addiction to actual substance, like substance abuse. I feel like those are the best Iron Man stories. Like Extremis, he feels like he needs to get more powerful, and whether that's to deal with a threat, to and there's these themes in multiple comics, but I feel like whenever it's done in an Iron Man comic, it feels better, because he did have such a prevalent problem with substance abuse in the 80s, and because that was such a character defining story, like the whole Demon in a Bottle saga was character defining, really. And the fact that any story that has gone since that's tried to ape that, like Dan Slott tried to ape it as well, it didn't go that well with him. I feel like it works better here because it's a different substance, it's playing with his addiction to power as well, and they're kind of marrying each other, and he's his addiction to power came from the addiction to morphine, but the addiction to morphine comes from his need, or his feeling of need towards being the hero, and his addiction for success and his addiction towards power. And it feels really interesting having those kind of characteristics in the protagonist, and that's why I always look forward to an Iron Man run or an Iron Man book, because I'm always interested in seeing what kind of take they're going to have on the character. And in this book, Iron Man is a depressed prick for most of it, but by the end of issue 19, he is like a good person, and you get that kind of characterization of this guy just wants to do the right thing, but he also has the baggage of being famous before he was a superhero as well. So that does tie in with it. And I don't think any other book is really tying into social media and tying into like how social media affects people's mental health in a way that this book does. And this book really is a study. I think it's more of a study on how being a superhero affects your mental health than something like Heroes in Crisis was. But yeah, I think this book overall is definitely worth a read for anyone, and for anyone tuned in with, like, for anyone that has like big feelings towards mental health in general and supporting people that suffer with mental health and that have had mental health issues in the past. I feel like that this book is even more relevant to them. And I feel like that's probably where I got a lot of I got a lot of relatability from this book. And I'm not saying that there's like relatability between me and Tony Stark as a character. Like I'm not a billionaire, I'm not famous, I'm not an inventor, I'm not that smart. But the whole like social media and the wanting to please people and that kind of how that can lead to an addiction to wanting like praise from people. Like I can relate to that because for a lot of the early points in my YouTube career, I did want that and want that praise from people. So yeah, I do relate to this book on that level. Maybe not on the substance abuse level, but I feel like that's still handled in a very respectful way. But going on with everything else, tying in with that, the comic book stuff in this, the action, the artwork, it's all great. His new suit, I love that new suit's getting action figures. I love that it's in mobile games. I love that put that as a skin in Marvel's Avengers, people will eat it up. I mean, you've got the Herald of Thunder. Why not put that in there? Why not put God Iron Man or the Iron God in there as well? Because it's a really freaking cool design. And when I say that this book is a great like action figure commercial, the next arc's gonna have Iron Man in like a new stealth armor for most of it, and then he's probably gonna get a new armor for each arc. I'm really freaking excited for how this book goes, and because with such a strong ending of issue 19, I feel like issue 19 could have been the end of this run, but no, Christopher Cantwell's still going on with it. I don't think an Iron Man run has gone past issue 19 for a while, which is huge, which is big. And like, I was iffy on this book from the start. I was like, I don't think Iron Man's that good. The artwork was all that was like staying with me. But overall, now that I'm like a decent chunk into the run, and now that Christopher Cantwell has had the opportunity to stretch his legs and to really get me, and to really hook me in, this is a book that I wholeheartedly that I'm excited for to read every issue of, and I'm genuinely an Iron Man fan now, and that was something that even the films didn't really do that much for me. Like, I was a fan of Robert Downey Jr.'s Tony Stark, but now I'm a fan of Tony Stark. Now I'm a fan of Iron Man. I'm not a fan of the MCU's Iron Man, because that doesn't exist anymore. I was when he was alive, but I'm a fan of Marvel Comics Iron Man now, which is something that I couldn't say for like a long time, pretty much since Civil War. I've tried, and I wanted to be a fan of Iron Man for a long time. I tried with the Slott run, I tried with the run just after Secret Wars. I've tried with a lot of Iron Man stuff, and this one is the one that's got me, and I'm so glad it did, because, oh boy. So yeah, I wholeheartedly recommend Iron Man. It's a beautiful book, both art-wise and writing-wise, and if like you're one of those people that like really is interested in seeing like mental health being explored in comic books, this is the book that's going to do that, probably the best. And that's probably what got me into this book more than anything else, more than the action, more than that, because it's a deeper thing, and it is a third layer, because you get the character, you get the action, and then you get like something that relates you to the story. And books that can do that, and books that can drum up emotion in you, because it's a lot more difficult for something like a comic book to make you cry than, say, a movie or even a video game. Like, I'd say a video game is probably the easiest to register an emotion from someone, because like it's a 20-hour, 30-hour experience. Like, a comic book, it's very difficult to register an emotion in someone, like, for 20 pages a month. And so yeah, if you enjoyed this video, let me know in the comments below. If you've been reading Iron Man and are interested in like what's gonna happen next, let me know your opinions on the current Iron Man run in the comments below. I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.